2 weeks. So this week we'll be covering the biceps femoris. So understanding where the muscles originate and where they insert is very important. So the biceps femoris originates at the ischial tuberosity, right at the back of the bottom of the pelvis. And it inserts into the head of the femur. So that's the bone on the outside of the shin. The tibia is a larger bone that's kind of more on the inside of the shin. So when the biceps femoris contracts, it flexes the leg. So it flexes at the knee, bringing the shin closer in. So another thing that it does is it externally rotates the lower portion of the leg. So, and I like to really think about what's going on and how I can get more basically bang for my buck utilizing the muscles. But you first have to bring awareness to these areas. So when I was reading about how it externally rotates, what does that mean? How can I get that sensation? So just sitting like this, one knee bent, the other one just kind of flopped down, and trying to sit up tall, I brought my hand, my right hand under my right leg to kind of connect, kind of feel where that biceps femoris is. So if I attempt to drag my foot in, so that's that isometric action. If I attempt to drag the foot in, I feel that biceps femoris working. So then I kept it contracted slightly. And remember, a contracted muscle means that the muscle shortened. A flexed muscle means that it's lengthened. So I started to externally rotate my shin, my tibia, and I really felt, I can actually feel the biceps femoris working. So, okay, well, how does that play into different postures? What happens though? Remember, again, Hatha yoga is about balance. So when one side is contracted, the other side is stretched. So we're playing around now with the quads, which are on the other side of the femur, and the hamstrings, which are on the back side of the femur. And something that has a large part to do with this is the location of the pelvis. So the best way to connect with the pelvis is to come into table and just do a couple cat-cows, lifting the pelvis up and tucking the pelvis under. So doing a couple of cat-cows. And when you come into cat, that's where the hamstrings, the biceps femoris, is contracting. And when you come into cow, that's where the quadriceps are contracting. So one way to really get a good stretch in the biceps femoris is to come into down dog. That's a pretty deep stretch. So coming into Adho Mukha Svanasana, and again, trying not to come in 100%. And I like to bend my knees at first, and knowing that the pelvis has a lot to do with, you know, what muscles are getting contracted, which muscles are getting stretched out. If you want to really get an more intense stretch in those hamstrings, you can lift the pelvis upwards like we were doing in that cow pose. So if someone has tight hamstrings, they will not be able to do that. They cannot move their pelvis anymore. To help someone with those tight hamstrings, you can have them bend their knees deeper in down dog. And they can be very, very a very deep bend. That'll make things a lot more comfortable. So it's better to have a long spine in down dog instead of trying to straighten the legs and have a rounded spine. Because when that happens, you start to really scrunch all the internal organs up, and that kind of defeats the purpose. You want to try to find space in as many areas as you possibly can. It makes things a lot more comfortable for the body as well as for the mind. So bringing awareness to, since we're talking about the biceps femoris, so bring awareness and start to really connect to that muscle. If the hamstrings are tight, it's hard to do the down dog. It's challenging to do a standing forward fold or any actually kind of forward folds. And to really get a good contraction of the biceps femoris, they talked about Marichyasana 3. Next week we'll talk about the Marichyasana 1 posture, which engages the semi-membranous, I'm sorry, I didn't really look over them. The semi-tendinosus and the semi-membranosus. I knew I was going to confuse them. So getting ready to come into Marichyasana 3. And I'm really not warmed up today. It's also very chilly. So I'm going to just stick with my right leg. So you lengthen the spine, and I'm not going to do the bind. So there's many variations that you could do. And getting 100% into the pose is not beneficial when you're not able to. So I'm just going to bring my hand to the knee and my right hand behind you, find length in my spine. Otherwise, you know, maybe someday I can bind, but today is not that day. All right, so find and create that space. I like to press my right big toe down. Again, finding length. And attempt to drag, again, that isometric action. Attempt to drag your right foot in towards the right hip. So that engages that biceps femoris. And instead of externally rotating that lower leg out, and if there was tightness in that, in the biceps femoris, it's going to be very difficult to internally rotate that tibia, that lower leg. Okay, so back into Marichyasana 3. Find and create space coming into that twist. Again, don't go all out. Only go about 50% into the poses, because then you could play around with, you know, what if I engage this? Does this benefit me more in the pose, or does it not benefit me in the pose? All right, so attempt to drag the right foot in. And what you're going to notice is that the right hip moves forward. So that really deepens the twist in this pose. All right. So the muscles that are also working to help with the contracting of the I'm stuck in next week's. With the biceps femoris are the gluteus maximus. These are the team players. The sartorius and the, one second. I like to refer to things. The gastrocnemius. So that's the calf muscle. We'll get to that down the road. So remembering who those synergists are, and when you engage those different muscles, they actually get you deeper into the pose. And the antagonists are the quadriceps and the iliopsoas. So when you engage those antagonists, it actually helps get you into more of a stable posture. So I'd like you guys to play around with that this week and see how you can find more stability as well as creating more space into those different postures. I hope this helps. If you have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to contact me, and have a great week. Namaste.